So today, we're going to talk about a moment in medical history that's absolutely pivotal, but honestly, most people have never even heard of it. It's this incredible story of hope, a really catastrophic failure, and in the end, a kind of redemption. This is the story of the Qatar incident, and how a terrible tragedy ended up creating the very safety systems that protect all of us today.
You know, it's kind of hard for us to really wrap our heads around it now, but back in the 1950s, the fear of polio was just everywhere. It was this terrifying lottery every single summer. Your kid could have what looked like a simple fever one day, and then the next, they could be trapped inside an iron lung, just struggling to breathe, or facing a lifetime of paralysis. I mean, this was the reality for millions of families. And then it happened. A moment of just pure, unfiltered joy. April 12, 1955, the Salk vaccine was declared safe, effective, and potent. And the entire country just exploded with relief. We're talking church bells ringing, people were literally crying and dancing in the streets. It felt like the war against this horrible disease was finally over.
Now, with the brutal summer polio season right around the corner, the government was in an absolute frantic race against time. The goal? Vaccinate millions of kids and fast. So to meet this huge demand, they gave production licenses to 5 different drug companies. And one of these was a pretty small, family-run business called Qatar Laboratories.
Okay, so the science behind the Salk vaccine was actually beautiful in its simplicity. Here's how it's supposed to work. You take the live poliovirus, then you kill it, or inactivate it, with formaldehyde. And then you inject that dead virus into a person's body. The immune system sees this dead virus, learns what it looks like, and builds up all the right defenses without ever having to fight the real dangerous thing. Simple, right? But also an incredibly delicate process.
Well, those celebrations didn't last long. Because inside that small lab in California, in that mad dash to produce a miracle, a catastrophic mistake was being made. It was an error that would turn the entire nation's greatest hope into an absolute nightmare. So let's get into what actually happened. The cure itself, the thing that was supposed to save everyone, had a hidden flaw, a fatal mistake right in the middle of the manufacturing process that would have truly devastating consequences.
Okay, so this is where it all went wrong. That key step, killing the virus, is everything. But at Qatar Labs, they had some filtration problems, and these tiny clumps of protein started forming in the vaccine mixture. And these little clumps acted like microscopic shields, protecting pockets of live poliovirus from the formaldehyde. So the virus wasn't dead. It was very, very much alive.
And this is the bottom line, right here. On the left, that's what was supposed to happen. A safe vaccine with a dead virus. But on the right, that's the horrifying reality of what Qatar actually shipped out. Vials filled with pure, infectious, live poliovirus, ready to be injected straight into the arms of thousands of healthy kids.
It didn't take long for the nightmare to begin. Just 2 weeks into this huge national vaccination campaign, the first terrified reports started to trickle in. Kids who had just gotten the vaccine were getting polio. And the doctors noticed this chilling pattern. You see, natural polio usually starts in the legs. But these cases, the paralysis was starting in the exact same arm where the child had just received the shot. The country wasn't just dealing with a bad batch of vaccine anymore. It was facing a man-made epidemic. And the numbers that came out next, they just revealed the unbelievable scale of the human cost. Before they figured it out and issued a recall, a staggering 120,000 doses of this tainted vaccine had already been given to children. Just think about that. 120,000 kids were injected not with a shield, but with a live, dangerous virus.
So what happened? Well, 40,000 of those kids developed what's called abortive polio. And while it was considered a milder form, it still meant fever, pain, and just terrifying uncertainty for tens of thousands of families who thought they were safe.
For 200 children, the damage wasn't mild. It was permanent. They were left with lifelong paralysis. Their lives, their families' lives, completely and irrevocably changed in a single moment.
And 10 children died. 10 kids lost their lives to the very cure that was supposed to save them. And the horror somehow didn't even stop there. The kids who were injected with the live virus, they became contagious. They went home from the doctor's office and spread polio to their parents, their brothers and sisters, starting whole new chains of infection throughout their communities. The cure had literally become the contagion. I mean, this whole scandal nearly shattered the public's trust in vaccines for good. But out of all this tragedy, something new was born. The investigation, the public outcry, it forced a complete reinvention of how we handle medical safety.
So the aftermath forced this complete overhaul, really building a safer future on 3 brand new pillars. First off, strict federal regulations. Never again would a company just be able to sign off on its own work. Independent outside verification for every single batch became mandatory. Second, a new legal precedent. From now on, manufacturers were legally on the hook for defective products, even if they didn't mean to be negligent. And third, this whole thing laid the groundwork for the modern vaccine surveillance systems we count on today, the very systems that watch for any problem.
So here's really the most important thing to take away from all this. Every single time you get a vaccine, or you take a prescription medication, there is this immense web of safety checks, quality controls, and federal regulations that is there to protect you. And that entire system exists because of the lessons we were forced to learn from the Cutter incident. That safety net was paid for by the suffering of those children and their families.
It just leaves us with this huge question, one that's just as relevant today as it was back in 1955. In our constant rush for progress, for the next big miracle cure, what is the real price of moving too fast? What happens when we sacrifice careful verification for speed? It's definitely something worth thinking about.